Welcome to the Inspired Riding Podcast. I'm your host, Beth Lauren Parrish. As a certified riding instructor, remote coach, and rapid transformational therapy practitioner, a powerful form of hypnotherapy, I'm here to remind you to slow down, trust your intuition, and really deeply listen to your horse. And this will make for the best co-creative dances possible, whether you're on the ground or connecting on their backs. Thank you so much for being here, and here we go. Hello there, everyone. In today's podcast, I'm going to be interviewing Ingrid Henry. Ingrid Henry of Harmonious Equestrian Connection is an equine partnership coach, helping horses and their humans connect and form trusting, loving relationships. She says, "I am a seeker of the beauty of harmony between two beings. I am a lifelong student, seeking wisdom and connection through open and authentic communication, cultivating a listening heart and mind. Horses are majestic, intuitive, powerful beings. They mirror those around them, and through this have so much to teach us about life, love, and ourselves in relation to it all. All of my life, I have been drawn to horses and to connection with animals. With a background in psychology, I seek to understand people in all of our complexity and our brokenness. I yearn for healing for all of us, horses and humans alike. That journey has opened my eyes to a new level of self-awareness and the power of intuition and energy. As prey and herd animals, horses are keenly aware of the energy, intentions, and emotions of those around them. In order to be the people they need us to be so they can be safe with us, we are challenged to learn and grow, to heal. As their caretakers, we must learn to listen to their needs, and not just their physical ones, but their mental and emotional needs as well. Once we open our eyes and our hearts, we can find attunement and true connection. Ingrid, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on your podcast. This is awesome.
You're most welcome. So today we're going to be focusing on riding confidence. My first question for you, what are some of the key elements you believe help riders to feel confident for their riding?
I think there's a lot that goes into that. So, of course, with confidence, you have to have a certain level of competence for whatever you're attempting to do. So feeling prepared for what you're planning to do with a horse, whether that's through, most likely through lessons. I think that's important. There's a lot you can learn also that's not in a lesson or on a horse, but through reading up and watching videos and that sort of thing. I think there's even more than that, though, is your mindset. So if you can manage the risks involved, we all know that horse riding can be dangerous. So I think it's important to acknowledge for yourself as a rider what might happen, what could go wrong, how can I prevent that from happening, how can I be prepared if it does. Things like wearing a helmet and developing your own fitness too, just so that if the horse should move suddenly, you can stick with them. All of that I think is really helpful. But what I feel like is the most important piece of confidence for riders is really their mutual trust with the horse. And obviously there are some situations where you're riding a horse for the first time and, there's not as much you can do to develop that relationship. There are still things you can do. Like I love your pre-mounting block ritual and things like that can help you connect with the horse and help them connect with you and feel like you're listening to each other. But I think that really helps because, let me give you an example. So recently I took my 4-year-old mare that I've raised from a foal on the trail, like for the first time. And it was just out down the road. It wasn't like a real trail riding facility. But my trainer asked me, "Ingrid, you seem so comfortable and at ease? Aren't you, worried that she's going to take off or something? And I'm like, no, because, she's brave, for one. And two, she trusts me. And even if she gets a little tense, I can take a deep breath. I can, breathe relaxation back into her, and she'll let go of that tension. And I have faith in her that I can calm her down. So I know she's a prey animal and anything could happen, but for the most part, I feel like we could handle whatever that trail ride might hand to us. And we did, she was very brave and calm. And I think most of that was the trust we had in each other.
That's absolutely beautiful. I love how you said you would breathe relaxation down to her.
Mm-hmm. I mean, They listen to our bodies, right? Body language is the language of the horse. And so whatever our energy is doing, and our breath is a big part of that, they feel it. And you can really affect them just by calming yourself.
I love that. And now preparation is key, and having that connection and that trust with your horse, there's nothing like it. So I'm really glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
What has helped you build confidence in yourself with riding and or in life?
Well, I feel like there's several different things to that. For me, one of the most important things was taking baby steps. I think we tend to, especially if we've lost confidence because of a fall or an injury or something like that happened to us that gave us fear, I think we tend to be like, okay, I got to get right back on the horse right now, And I found that I'm not a fan of that. I'm more of what you need is no bad experiences for a while. And so do what does feel comfortable to you. If that means just grooming a horse, okay, hey, you're still around a horse and they're still with you. And if you can be calm during that, maybe next time you could put a saddle on, or you could stand at the mounting block, maybe even groom them from a mounting block so that you're kind of over their space, but in a way that you can easily step down, if you got scared or if they moved or anything. I did that myself when I had a fall recently. I didn't want to ride the other horses, and it's not that they were unsafe, but I just didn't feel like they were going to give me the confidence that I needed to get back. And so I rode only two or three mares who were very, take care of you, very safe for a while until I got more of my confidence back. And I just think that's so important. People tend to rush themselves, and there's no rush. Better to take the time it takes.
Absolutely. That's actually what I tell most people. Like, even if they're ready to ride again, but they're not so sure about the horse they came off of, I always suggest to try to find a schoolmaster, a caretaker type, to help build their confidence up slowly but surely. And I love that. I've taught many students where they just stand at the mounting block. They might put a foot in the stirrup, get on for 2 seconds, hop back off, or maybe not even get on, and that's okay too. So it's so critical that we give ourselves that grace to go that slowly. So I'm so glad you mentioned that as well.
Yeah. And, I heard this other idea before, that the best way to gain confidence is to not stay completely in your comfort zone, but just step outside of it, just barely, and maybe comfortable is too big of a word, but breathe there, relax a little there, and then go back to your comfort zone. Because you're stretching yourself without taking the elastic so far it breaks, right? So exactly that, just that small little step, find some release there. And the same thing works for horses too, by the way. If they've lost their confidence, I recommend the same kind of approach.
Absolutely. It's like taking all of your tools of confidence, your breathing, your connection, and then just allowing yourself to feel comfortable in the uncomfort feeling. And it's just that little bit of like, oh, I don't know about this, but I'm going to breathe and trust that I can do this. So it's a beautiful little nuance, that step.
Absolutely. And that brings me to another thing I was going to say, which is if you can maintain kind of a growth mindset about yourself, that, try not to even tell yourself, I'm scared of horses, I'm never going to ride again, right? Because all those fixed mindset thoughts are going to hold you back. But if you just say, maybe I'll ride today, then you're like, there's an opening there, there's a possibility. And if it doesn't feel right, I won't. Okay, but I will, maybe someday. And so I think it's really important to also keep that in mind. Stay curious, stay open to learning more, and allow that you might, grow and learn and continue to gain in confidence. Another thing that I found that has helped me is actually looking back at old photos or old videos of myself riding, or wherever, whether it was in a confident moment then or in a comparison way now. Look at how much better I am as a rider or horse trainer or whatever I'm unconfident with. I find that that's really helpful too. Or even back at journal entries or something, looking at what I had done previously can actually help me gain confidence, because you realize what you've learned, or you realize what you've done before and can do again.
Definitely. And that's such a beautiful way to reassure yourself. Like, wait, I have done this before. I can bring that back. I can cultivate that energy again.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yep.
And I love that you journal as well. It's so good.
Yeah, I have actually calendars of where I would write down every ride I had with my horse. I'm not as good about it now, I admit, but I still do write on occasion. And I just think it's so helpful to look back on and reflect on.
Absolutely. That's why I made the companion journal for inspired riders. And it's got some really fun prompts in there too. So, yep. I love being able to look back and check in. And it's a good reminder to actually write a little before you ride and after you ride. So before you ride, you tune in with yourself and your horse and you say, this is how I'm feeling right now. This is how I think my horse wants things to go today. Because you'll get those telepathic messages, or just looking at their body language, whatever you feel comfortable with. And then you write that down, and then you go back and reflect on the ride after and see if it was the same from when you thought about it in the beginning. And so that's really fun to compare just in those little moments. But then to go back and look years ago is even more fun, because you're like, wow, look how far I've come. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you have any stories that you'd like to share about yourself or a client around the process of building confidence for riding? And how did it unfold?
Yeah, I think probably the best story to tell would be the one I alluded to earlier, where I had a fall off a horse and lost my confidence. This was back in 2022, so not really that long ago. And in November of 21, I'd had a fall off a horse and broken my ribs. I didn't even realize it for a week. I had been riding a friend's horse who was an older horse, but a jumper, and I think I kind of accidentally activated his hot seat, like by having a dressage rider seat myself. And I think he was like, oh, are we really going to jump? And he just got a little excited. And then he did a flying lead change, and I lost my stirrup and just kind of got out of balance, and that worried him. And then he turned and I came off. Anyway, so I really feel like it was actually one of those incidents where I should have listened to my intuition, because it was going really well. And I was like, oh, this is fun. Like, we're just playing around. We did a little low jumping, which is his comfort zone, not mine. but I've done some of that, and it was fine. And I was like, I should probably stop here. That was good. But I went on for more, and I kept riding, and I was like, well, we got a flying change. Maybe I could try to get one this time. And that's when I lost my stirrup and everything fell apart. So that was example number one of needing to listen to my intuition, and I didn't. Then, maybe just a couple of months later, the mare I'd been riding, who's very safe, stumbled while I was cantering. And she almost went down. She caught herself on the ground, there was a little bit of, I think her teeth might have hit the ground. Just really scary.
So scary.
And I tumbled over her shoulder. Thankfully, I was wearing a safety vest. Having broken my ribs recently, I thought that was a good investment. Glad I was wearing that. And she did actually, once I fell off, manage to right herself so she wasn't, further injured, thankfully. And it wasn't as hard for me to get back to riding after that. It felt like such a fluke. And I just needed to help her balance on the tight turn and the counter canter. And it was just a very specific thing that had happened. The previous one was kind of just a fluke too. It was a horse I didn't know as well. And I was in a jump saddle, so I wasn't as used to that because I usually ride dressage. So I was a little out of my comfort zone, I suppose, in a few ways. But it just sort of felt like a perfect storm where things went wrong. The third time I fell in a 6-month period, I was training a horse, and he had been started previously and was, I think, 7 or 8 at this point and had had some time off. So we were kind of restarting him. And we took, most of the usual steps. Like I just mounted and sat there and then got off. And then another day we walked around on a lunge line in a round pen. We were taking it slow. And I'd gotten up to walk, trot, and canter on my own in the arena. And one day I had lunged him in the round pen and then vacated it for someone else to go in there. And I had just gotten on him and we were walking around. And the horse in the round pen was going crazy. Just really dashing around. And it's because the horses there don't get a lot of turnout. So he was kind of getting his energy out. But my horse was really worried. Like, what's setting that one off?
Sure.
Oh no, do I need to be worried? And he did several little startles where he's scooting and then stopping listen, I'm worried. And I just patted him and was like, it's okay, we're fine. But again, had I really listened to my intuition, I probably would have gotten off and just, he was new to being ridden again. Why not? Just go back to groundwork, get him calmer with me in front of his face where he could see me. And I would have if I had it all to do over again. But I didn't. There was a couple of other riders in the arena, including some other professionals. And I felt like probably my ego didn't want to dismount when they had just been riding their bucking horses, And I was like, well, he hasn't done anything too bad. We'll be okay. Well, something set him off, and he took off galloping and bucking. And I can ride a buck, but this was bronking. I stayed on actually to the end of the arena, and then he threw me into the corner. Thankfully, I don't think I hit the wall or the gate, but I was on the hard packed dirt right by the gate.
Ouch.
And I was wearing my vest and my helmet. And so actually I was like, oh, I think I'm okay. I wasn't injured. I did start to get a headache, and I discovered later that I had a mild concussion. But at the time, I was like, no, I think I'm okay. So my trainer, who was helping me, actually lunged the horse and I think rode him for the first time. And then she insisted I get back on. And so I did. I didn't canter or anything exciting. I think we only stayed on the lunge line, but I did ride then too, which was probably not ideal for the concussion.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, I did get back on the horse. However, at that point, I didn't want to. I felt that he didn't have enough trust in me to handle a situation that was likely to come up again. There would probably be another horse in the round pen going crazy some other day. And I didn't feel like either of us had enough trust in each other. That really, ideally for him, he would have someone who didn't have that memory of having come off of him and it didn't have the fear that I had. And that I needed a horse who didn't have, that reactivity to get my confidence back. So I ended up basically doing just that, getting my confidence back gradually on other horses. And he had another rider who took him on and did a great job with him. So it kind of all worked out, but it was definitely an eye-opening experience for me to listen to that intuition. And also I realized that that wasn't what I wanted to do with horses. I actually just then the next year started my young horse under saddle. So it's not that I'm afraid to be the first person on the horse's back, but I didn't want that to be my profession, training other people's horses, especially anything that was a problem horse or a very young one or inexperienced. Like, he was kind of inexperienced. I decided I really had a passion for teaching. And so that's been more my focus since.
I love that. That was the shift I made as well. I came off some youngsters that I was training for other people. I'm like, I don't think I need to do this anymore. So,
there are lots of people that, maybe honestly, I think most trainers put in their time when they're younger.
Right.
Doing that. And then at some point are like, yeah, there were too many injuries with that. I'll let some kid do it. And I was 40 at the time. So I was getting up there and I'm like, yeah, no, this just is not the right fit. I ride other people's horses all the time, but I pick and I choose and I pick my battles and I listen to my intuition now. So if my intuition says they're a little nervous, I'll hop down for a minute, then I will.
That's beautiful. I'm sorry that those lessons had to be so ouchy. And I've had similar ones, of course, as well when I didn't listen to my intuition. But I'm so glad that you have that tool now and you have that superpower. And everyone can cultivate that. It's just a matter of really dialing in your inner compass and saying, I feel like riding today. My horse feels good today. If you get all green lights, you go for it. If you have a yellow light or red light, take a step back, hop off, do groundwork, whatever you need to do to build that confidence back up. So thank you for sharing those stories.
That happened to me today. My young horse really wanted to go out on the trail, and she's only done that alone once. And I'm like, it's kind of windy. Let's lunge first and we'll see. And she was so good at first, but once we got to canter, she was a little frisky. And I'm like, see, there's a reason we didn't just go right out on the trail. I did actually end up riding her outside a little bit lightly after she worked through some of that energy. Not like wearing her out, but just letting her move. And then we came back in the arena and worked a little more. And I listened to my intuition and we handled all the situations fine. So yeah, I think it really helps. And that's one of the things I try to teach people too, to listen to that inner voice. And whether or not they believe the horse's voice specifically, we all have our own intuition and we should really listen.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you encourage your clients to listen as well.
Yeah. I think it's so valuable to cultivate that in ourselves. It can protect us and keep us safe and help us to just enjoy things more if we can make the right decision based on the horse we have that day, the conditions around us, all those things.
Yeah, and I think if every instructor got cool with that and really listened to their clients more when they said, I'm not sure I'm able to do this, and not let their ego get involved saying, of course you can do it, we've done this before, to really just dial it back and think from their hearts more and go, okay, the client really needs to work through this in a way that I'm not understanding. So let's just breathe together and figure out the best solution. Does she need to hop off? Does she need to do something different? So if every instructor were to do that, we'd have a lot happier horses and clients out there. So
yeah, absolutely. And I've been very happy with the instructors I've worked with since too, that they haven't pushed me. If I have felt not right about something, I ride this pretty hot little 20-year-old mare, and some days I'm like, I'm gonna get back off and we'll just lunge her a little bit and let her move a little, and then we'll try it again. And she's not like naughty, she's actually super good, but she just sometimes has sort of too much energy. And I appreciate my instructors respect that. Yep.
That's so good.
I wish they all did.
Yeah. But hopefully with more podcasts like this, people will start to make that shift. So, yes.
Absolutely.
Ingrid, what do you think holds riders back from being their most confident selves?
I think one of the big things that holds people back the most is what we say to ourselves, like our inner voices. We can be so critical, comparing ourselves to others. I know that's one of the big problems with social media. People look like they have their life together and everything's perfect. And we all know that's not the truth, but it can still lead to that perception that, but I'm not, getting all those awards or accomplishing all those things that other people are. I think that's a really big one, is being able to change the script inside us into something more positive. Again, that kind of fixed mindset versus growth mindset. I think that's huge. I think also, like we've talked about, being pushed. Like if people are pushed past their comfort zone too much, I think that's going to erode their confidence rather than build it. So again, going back to that like baby steps belief, I think that's super important to let people listen to their intuition and go at the pace that seems right for them. Some people do bounce back really quickly from something, and others need more time. And same thing with horses, right? I think just like how there's a cumulative effect of like damage when you have a concussion and then you have another one or something like that, the same thing's true with a fear. So you can kind of have, if like in my case, I wasn't afraid at all after the first fall. I was like eager to get back on. I just waited till my ribs healed and then, rode a familiar, safe horse, but I didn't really have any fear. The second one, I had a little bit, but it was limited to that situation that had caused her to fall. And then the third one was like, okay, now I really need to reset and change how I'm doing things to keep myself safe. And to have confidence in doing this. I've been riding for decades, but definitely when you get hurt is when the fear can creep in. And I think, honestly, I'm glad I went through that experience, both because it woke me up to needing to listen to my own intuition, and because it gave me a lot of empathy for everyone else dealing with confidence or fear issues. Not that I'd never been afraid before, but that was definitely the biggest setback like that I'd experienced. And I think it really informs my ability to help others with similar things.
Absolutely. I've had very similar experiences because when I was a young trainer, I'd push my students a little too much. And then after I got the metal plate in my arm, when I didn't listen to my intuition, it took me like several months to get my confidence back up on my steady little schoolmaster. And now I can see that little bit of nervousness just kind of irking its way through my client's mind. And I'm like, okay, what do we need right now? What is your body telling you? And so we take a pause and we rebreathe together and we figure it out. And I always encourage them, hey, let me know if something doesn't feel right. I want you to feel safe, have fun, make a little progress if we can. If not, no worries. Anytime you're around the horse is a blessing. So just having that extra empathy is absolutely gorgeous. And again, I'm sorry it happened, that it, was so painful, but it is a beautiful thing to develop. And I wish more people would have that, even without those ouchy experiences, if we can dream big,
Right, yeah, absolutely. If we can learn from each other's experience without injury, it's even better.
Absolutely.
One of the other things that comes to mind actually is a quote in terms of things that hold riders back, right, from being their most confident selves. It's a quote by Marianne Williamson. This just has really spoken to me over the years. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. I just love that, right?
Yes, that's one of my favorite quotes, and I got full-on chills hearing you read it. Thank you for that.
Oh my gosh, I get chills like every time I hear it. I'm like, oh, why do I need to hear this every day? But I do.
Yeah, and that's, again, it's flipping the script. It's reminding yourself, shine your light. And that's what it's all about. Thank you for that. There was a workshop I went to help you actually find your voice and use your voice better, which helped me, of course, with the hypnotherapy and the meditations and everything, and of course, teaching. But we actually were handed pieces of that quote to read out loud to everyone else. And it was so beautiful and powerful. So that just reminded me of that. So thank you again.
Yeah, of course. So ideally, I think, for riders and anyone wanting to be more confident, it's claiming that, right? That uniqueness that is you, that light that is you. So that quote, I think it just reminds each of us that we should find out what lights us up, who we really are, what we have to give to the world. It's unique. And I think the most confident you can ever be is owning that, being really you. The world needs you.
Yes.
It needs me. It needs everyone to be themselves.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
What do you wish every rider would believe about themselves?
I wish that people would really believe that having a loving, trusting bond with the horse, I know sometimes people use the phrase heart horse, that it's possible. It's not a fairy tale. It's not a make-believe. It's not some imaginary, impossible goal. It is truly possible to have that with even the horse you have. For a while, I did a podcast about heart horses, and it was interesting hearing people's stories. For some people, the heart horse was the challenging one that made them grow. For other people, it was the easy one that they just connected with instantly. But in all cases, it wasn't necessarily the horse that they would have expected. It would be the favorite horse. And I think people often, kind of like in any relationship, give up if it gets hard. And instead, that's where you have the most potential for growth. So my heart horse, Elena, was very challenging in her personality. And literally, she was one of those horses that if you asked her to back up, she'd try to push forward. Whatever you wanted, she'd go to the opposite. And I think that was partly just who she was, just a bossy mare who kind of wanted things her own way. But I think also she was really testing me and everyone around us. Can you be the leader I need you to be? And that involves having the right mindset. So often I would get frustrated with her because she would be lazy in my rides. And I think she just really taught me not to get frustrated, because it didn't help. It only made things worse. And if I was able to just be okay, I understand that you take a while to warm up, and that's okay. Good girl, you trotted. I'm so proud of you. If I just became really positive about her, then I couldn't be frustrated. I couldn't be mad, and I appreciated her, and she would give me her all. But it really took a lot of work on her part to get rid of all that frustration in me. And now I don't get frustrated very easily when horses do things. I'm just okay, well, let's try that again. And I really credit her with that. And that's kind of how she became my heart horse. It was partly that I had raised her from a foal. I think that certainly helped us be bonded to each other. But she was the sort of horse that a lot of people would have given up on because of the frustration. And I could totally see how she could have gone from one person to the next and getting more and more sour on people. But I refused. I loved her too much to let her go. And I'm I have to figure this out. I have to figure out how to be the person my horse needs me to be so that she can be in relationship with me. And we finally found it. And years later, it took me a while to realize, I guess she is my heart horse, And I really want people to believe that that's possible for them. And often, I think people think, well, I just need to find the right horse. And I don't think that's true. I think you have to be the right person for your horse to help them feel safe with you, whether they're an anxious type horse or a dominant type horse or whatever their needs are, figuring out how to be what they need. And in the process, you'll become a better person because horses are just amazing at asking us to grow.
Absolutely. And if we are owning our light and our power, then we understand that we can continue evolving and growing. And then the horses go, oh, there you are.
Yeah.
We're not trying to hide. And the horses hate when we hide or try to like fake things, you know. They want us to be congruent inside and out. So even if you are frustrated, you could say, listen, I'm frustrated right now, but I'm willing to work through this with you. I need to build my patience button. And then you breathe together. And then all of a sudden they start moving out even better. So I totally relate to this. I have similar things that happen with Pepper. Like when I was trained as a youngster, I was trained to like make the horse do it. And now I have to sit there and wait until he's ready. And then as soon as I do, then the magic happens instead of pushing. So I've taken the pushing out of it and just added invitations and the waiting after the invitation. And then from there, things flow. So I'm so glad you mentioned that. We're not alone. It's very easy to get frustrated with horses because, you know, we've been trained, many of us have been trained in that way where we need to have it right now and things need to be made to happen. But if we just get that patience, that new level of patience that you cultivated, it's amazing how things can flow. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I love what you said too about like waiting. I found that too with my young horse. So I do ride dressage, but she's young, so I'm not pushing her at all. But it is a goal for me that as she trots around, that her neck isn't really braced and high. I don't want all of her weight on her forehand. She doesn't need to be perfectly round or anything, but I just want her to reach out to the bit. And I found that when I was trying to make her do that, she would brace against me. The very thought of make her do it did not help. So my trainer was like, think of what you are trying to do as helping her to do it. Better yet, just allow her to do it. And oh my gosh, you know, totally game changer. So the same lesson all over again on a different level, on a different horse, you know, but it's really beautiful what they will do for us. They're prey animals. They don't respond well to pressure. And so much of what people do with horses is pressure. Even looking at them, even going to get them in the pasture. Gosh, so much.
Totally.
They're probably just like, gosh, could you tone it down a little, people?
Absolutely. And I love that you shifted it to allow. And that's another thing is just all the words that we use then will create new feelings, which will create new beliefs and new actions. So just shifting from making, pushing, gotta do it, to inviting, allowing, softening, and then that magic happens. It's gorgeous. Ingrid, when do you feel the most confident in life?
Honestly, when coaching and teaching others. It's really my passion. I feel so strongly about the relationships we can have with horses and how that is also through our own self-improvement. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and was originally planning to be a therapist. And life kind of pulled me off that course, but I still have that interest. And so for me, there's always an element of that in my coaching and my teaching. It's always focused on the relationship with the horse and helping them to have better harmony with their horse. But sometimes it can look like a kind of typical dressage lesson, and I'm helping them with their biomechanics of their position or their horse, you know. But a lot of it involves some groundwork or working on confidence and mindset things. Some of my coaching is just remote and not actually written at all, but just talking about their horse and their challenges and their relationships. And I come up with ideas for things for them to try. One client that I'm working with right now has a mare that's very challenging personality and kind of checked out. And I advised to her, honestly, even though she does let you ride her, if you really want to work on the relationship, don't. Just spend time with her until she takes deep breaths in your presence. Don't do anything. Don't expect anything of her. Just breathe.
Beautiful.
And when she can be with you, just breathing, and that's okay, then you can add the next thing in gently. But I think that, of course, maybe at some previous point had been pushed too hard, or, she had some resistances. And I think that with horses, it's really a good idea to take it back down to the super basics of just being together. We are human beings, after all.
Yes.
Not human doings. But we have to remind ourselves of that, because we get so focused on doing things. Anyway, so talking about all this and helping people with their relationships with their horses, that's absolutely just what I love to do the most.
Love it so much. Is there anything else you'd like to share that I haven't asked you?
I guess just that I think when people encounter a difficulty in their relationship with a horse, sometimes it can be really hard to unravel what's going on. Typically, the horse is trying to communicate something. And it could be something like, you're putting too much pressure on me. Just allow, that's going to help. Or remind the rider, the handler, to breathe and help the horse breathe. But there can also, of course, be physical issues that are also going on. And the horse, they communicate the only way they know how, right? So sometimes they might have a sore back from an ill-fitting saddle, or sore feet and need different work done on their farrier, or any other sort of, maybe their teeth need to be done. Anyway, all of those things can affect how the horse is. And so I'm not a vet, of course, but in my encouraging people to find that connection and that bond, I always recommend that people have a good team, right, of vets and other professionals who see their horses often enough to be able to check in and help determine if there is a physical issue that's causing part of the problem. So in fact, I went through that with my young horse this fall. She had the saddle I had been using no longer fit, and so I ordered a new one. And in the meantime, I kept riding her in that one for a little while, and then I'm like, I don't know. I feel like her training's kind of going a little sliding backwards. Doesn't feel right. And then the next day, my masseuse body worker came out to work on my horse, and she's like, yeah, Ingrid, if you're feeling that, give her a break. And so I did, and it actually got worse before it got better. Her back got really don't touch me sore. But I stopped riding altogether and just let her move, and in freedom, actually, at liberty in the arena, and then gradually back on a lunge line. But I didn't pry her head down in any way, because I just wanted her to feel her body and her movement, and that the saddle was no longer pinching her, and let her muscles recover. And they did. But I'm so glad that I listened to that intuition, that maybe it was time, because it was so early. She was not bucking or, any of the things that horses do when they're in pain. She wasn't swishing her tail. Maybe she was a little bit girthy, but nothing extreme. And I still felt like this isn't quite my horse. She's the sort of horse that when I groom her, she likes to groom me back.
Oh.
She'll rub on my back, which I just love. And she'd kind of stopped doing that. And in fact, one time had reached around and sort of snapped at me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you must be really sore. Because she was just telling me, Mom, that hurts. Don't touch like that. And I'm so glad I listened to her. And now she's, back to good. She has her new saddle, and she had the time off that she needed from being ridden. And we're all good again. But I wanted to bring up that physical piece too, that we talk a lot about the rider's mindset, but part of it too is eliminating pain as a contributing factor for the horse.
Thank you for that. Yeah, we have to be such good detectives in all ways. And I had a similar thing happen with Pepper. His jump saddle was starting to bridge a little bit, and when I would ask for canter, he would actually hunch up, and that was not like him at all. So I stopped using it. I only rode in the bareback pad until I could order my new saddle, and it's amazing. So remember how I mentioned I would have to get on and wait for him to be ready? So now I get on and he's like moving out like before I'm ready. I'm like, dude, you got a motor now. This is amazing. He's like, I feel free in my back. Let's go. You know, it's really funny.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's so worth it to do your detective work, find all the best professionals you can to help you. And then, you know, you can ride in harmony and find all those fun, magical moments. And when you hit those roadblocks, know how to step back and do your detective work again.
Yep, absolutely. Because that happens, you know, as we're riding horses, they are athletes, and so are we. And the aches and pains sometimes become, you know, more. And even with regular routine hoof care and teeth care and all that, you know, we have to pay attention. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. Ingrid, how can people get in touch with you?
I am most active, I guess, on Facebook as Harmonious Equestrian Connection, and also on Instagram, Ingrid and then letter K Henry there. If people want, they can even email me, ingridkhenry@gmail.com. And I do, like I mentioned earlier, have a podcast that I've started. It's called Harmonious Equestrian Connection, which is my business name. And the first piece was a bunch of interviews with people about their hard horses, but I also have some other podcasts on there about just building a relationship with your horse. And actually, I'm starting a new series about harmony with horses, and I'll be talking with a variety of different equestrian professionals in different roles, like body workers and trainers and all kinds of different roles. And I'm looking forward to that. So I'll be interviewing people, and we'll be brainstorming, like, how can we have more harmony with horses?
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. Is there any kind of offer you'd like to share about, or?
Oh yeah, I do offer a introductory sort of program. I do a free consultation call if anyone wants my coaching, and then $150 for 3 sessions is my kind of get you started. And then I do have discounts for if you wanted to purchase like a 3-month session. I recommend that much if you want to work on your relationship with your horse. I find that it takes some time. You'll get some benefit out of less, but I like to really invest in my clients. So yeah, I recommend that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Ingrid. And just for fun at the end here, I'd love to know, if you were a horse, how would you describe yourself?
I have I'd already thought about this. So I'm about, 15 hands, middle-aged, old-style Morgan mare, a sensitive old soul who sees the best in others, a dancer in the sandbox who enjoys exploring the woods, the sun on her back, and meeting other animals. I'm like, sort of, if I was a horse, I'd be the sort of horse who was safe for like kid pony rides, but would stand up for myself and challenge bossy riders who needed that. But in all things, I would say I'm a lover, not a fighter.
That's fantastic. I love it, Ingrid.
Can't you just picture it?
Yes. I actually got chills of you describing it. That was really cool.
Oh, really? Yeah. That's awesome. And it's funny because it's not my dream horse. My horse that I love is taller, darker, I don't know, in some ways similar, but it's interesting being able to, I actually like that exercise, considering who we are as horses and even the people around us, or even the other animals around us. Who would they be if they were a horse? And I don't know, I think it's a helpful exercise sometimes.
Absolutely. And I think Pepper and I are definitely very similar, quite cheeky and fun, but also curious and steadfast. So, yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it, how we're drawn to animals that are like us, and or we become like each other over time. It's a bit of both, I think.
Indeed. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Ingrid, this was wonderful. Thank you again so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah, my pleasure. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. And everyone, remember to check out Ingrid's links in the notes. And thank you so much for listening. Remember to lead with kindness for yourself and for your horse. And may the horse be with you always.